and welcome. This is the Woman of Value podcast. My name is Nkiru Iwala. You can call me Kiki. Did you know that I also have a YouTube channel called Gracefully Kikilicious? So please find me on YouTube and let's connect on there. We're building a community of women who have positive mindset and are therefore successfully changing their lifestyles. So let's head on right into the topic of today. We will be talking about infertility. So this is going to be the first in the series, which I believe will add a great deal of value to the life of my listeners. I'm going to start by sharing my testimony of navigating the journey of infertility. But I will also bring along other women. And if you are out there and you feel you want to come on the show and share your experience, please feel free to drop me a line, drop me a message, either on YouTube or on here, and I will be glad to have you on. All right, I'm not sharing my story because I want people to feel bad that their miracles have not materialized, because these little ones that we're waiting for are our miracle. No, I'm sharing my testimony because I want to encourage you. So let's jump right into it because there's no time to waste. Absolutely no time to waste. So I actually waited 3 years before I carried my bundle of joy. Okay, you might say 3 years. I've been married for 13 years. I've been married for 23 years. How can she even talk about infertility after only being married for 3 years? Hold on, hold your horses. Let me tell you something. 1 year, approximately 1 year after my marriage, a friend of mine came to me and she said to me, "Oh, how are you managing this infertility issue that you're going through?" And I said, Infertility? How can you tell me that I'm going through infertility? I have only been married for approximately 1 year. And she said to me, "Well, as long as you've been trying and you haven't had a child yet, medical science considers you as infertile." Wow. And I was shocked, but I was not upset at my friend because she was speaking from a place of experience. I knew she had gone through the same cycle when she got married. She waited for about 4 years before she had her first child. So I couldn't get upset with her. I knew her story. I knew her journey. And so I knew she was speaking from a place of experience. And I had to listen to her. And I realized I qualify to be described as infertile, because if you've been trying for 6 months trying to get pregnant without getting pregnant, you're considered infertile or experiencing infertility. So if you've been married for 10 years, 15 years, and you don't have a child yet, nobody understands what you're going through. And I know how lonely it can be as a woman walking this path of infertility. So please, stay on and you will be blessed. I was married for 3 years before I had my bundle of joy. And this is a testimony of how I became a mother, okay? I got married at the age of 35. I honestly did not think I would wait to the age of 35 before getting married. You see, I planned that by the age of 31, I would be done with childbearing, and then I would just face my life squarely, and whatever it was I needed to do, I would hit the road running. But by the age of 35, I wasn't even married, okay? I got married at 35, and so I was so anxious to start having children that I expected to conceive on my wedding night. Why? Okay, because I had never taken a contraceptive in my life, least of all have an abortion. So I believed that I was healthy enough, all the ducks were in a row to ensure that I would get pregnant. And I'm not saying that if you've taken a contraceptive or if you've had an abortion, that's the reason why you're not getting pregnant. But we all know how we think. I used to think like that, and I'm going to talk more about that as I proceed. We all think that the bad girl, is the one who should not get pregnant, or the good girl is the one who should immediately get pregnant. But we all know that virgin who got married on her wedding night as a virgin but still didn't get pregnant. And we all know that girl next door who had so many abortions, we all lost count. The girl, the bad girl in the neighborhood that all the guys appeared to be with, got married and had a baby in the first year of her marriage, and probably even conceived on her wedding night. If you know these stories, please drop me a message below, a comment below. So yeah, I was also of that same school of thought, that I had been a good girl and therefore I wouldn't have problems conceiving. But guess what? Life had other plans and I did not conceive. First month of my marriage, I cried when I saw my period. I thought, what is going on? This is the last thing I expected to see this month. And the second month after my wedding, I still cried after I saw my period. And then the third month, my period was late. Yeah! And so I say, yay, now, this is it. This is it. And I said to my husband, don't touch me. Because I thought that if he touched me, I would probably lose the baby. He would knock the child out of me. I was that naive. So I said, nothing is going to happen until we are sure that this thing is here to stay. But guess what? A few days later, showed up, red flag. And my monthly visitor arrived, and I cried again. I cried. My husband held me while I cried. That was 3 months into my marriage, and after crying that month, I began to say to myself, how long are you going to continue like this? How long are you going to keep doing this? I realized I could not go on that way because I totally hate to be depressed. I hate it. I hate being low spirited. I hate being downcast. I'm someone that always wants to be happy, joyful, smiling. And so when I'm facing challenges in life, I try to get rid of them real fast so that I can go back to being my happy, smiley self. And so when this challenge hit me, I said to myself, no, this is not happening. I can't be this downcast. And of course, my downcastedness really never lasts very long. But just to have me crying every month, because I knew that my period was going to show up every month until I got pregnant. And I said, I can't continue like this. I just can't continue like this. I can't. And so something had to be done. Okay. So, but by this time I was already beginning to think, you know what? My biology teacher, they lied. They lied when they said that coitus results in pregnancy. They lied when they said when a man meets a woman, conception occurs. They lied. It's all lies, because if it was true, I ought to have been pregnant by then, because my husband and I, we had been busy. So, but it just wasn't happening. It just wasn't happening. And so I said to myself, look, I can't continue like this. I can't continue like this. All right. So I stopped crying. I stopped crying. I saw my period the 4th month, 5th month. By then, like I said, it was my regular visitor. Okay, you don't come. All right, no problem. Let's move on. But when am I going to get pregnant? I used to wonder. I still wondered. And then my sister-in-law, after 6 months of my being married, came to me and she said, you've been married 6 months, just like me when I was married. But first 6 months, I didn't take you in, so I had to go see a doctor. Do you mind if I take you to go see a doctor? And I said, well, I don't mind, because I really do need to see a doctor. She said, well, I have a doctor. He's a gynecologist and he's a consultant and he's really experienced. I saw him and he helped me and I took in. So it's not normal for you to be, married and sleeping with your husband and you're not taking in. And, she was really nice and everything about it. And so, okay, let's go see the doctor. So she took me to this doctor. So before she took me there, there was a lady I worked in the same office with, whom lived close to me. So from time to time I drove to work with her and back. And one of the days we were driving to work together, I said to her, oh, look what I'm going to do. I'm going to see a gynecologist and so on and so forth. And she was like, you're going to see a gynecologist? How long have you been married for? I said, I've been married for 6 months and I'm not pregnant. And she was like, so why are you worried? It's just 6 months. And I said, well, I don't know. I think because I've read it in books and I've seen it online that if you've been trying for 6 months, after 30, you should go see a doctor. And I told her that. And she said, well, that's fine, no problem. But what if you don't get pregnant after you see the doctor? And when asked me that question, I know that someone out there is going to say, why do people say such nasty things? You know, when she asked me that question, what if you don't get pregnant after you've seen the doctor? I said, I didn't get upset because I knew her story, which is why I said, even if you've been married 18 years, if you've been married 15 years, you don't have a child, somebody's story can help you. Somebody's story can help you. So please just stay on here, and if you want to tell your story to help someone else, please drop me a message and I will have you on this podcast. Somebody's story will help you. I knew her story, this lady who was talking to me. I knew her story. I knew she was married 7 years before she had her first child, and she had 2 children. And so I said, well, if she says this to me, then there must be a reason. I said, what? I said, what if you do everything and you still don't get pregnant? I didn't get upset, and I didn't look at it like, okay, you don't have faith, or you don't want me to have faith. You're just being pragmatic, and that is something we all need to do. And I was not upset with her because, like I said, maybe I didn't say, well, let me say it now. I asked myself a similar question when I did not get married until my 30s had started and we're counting down. And so I said to myself at some point, what if you never get married? And so I had to prepare myself for that eventuality, because I am a pragmatic person. Okay, so I began to financially prepare myself for the eventuality that I would be alone and single for my entire life, because I wasn't the kind of girl who was going to just go and live with a man, or just, you know, I wasn't that kind of girl. And so I knew that I had to start preparing myself for a financial future that would require me to be responsible for all my needs, and I wanted to be financially empowered. And so when she asked me that question, I cast my mind back to when I was single and asked myself the same question. I thought about it, and she didn't tell me the answer to the question. It was a rhetorical question, and I knew that she just wanted me to think about it. And so I thought about it, and I said, okay, fine, this is it. I'm calling it. At this point, I make up my mind that I'm going to be happy regardless what anybody says to me, regardless what happens. If I went to the doctor and the news was good or bad, I made up my mind that I was going to be happy, because I just could not imagine myself being downcast, being low-spirited for the rest of my life, for all the days of my life, because I hadn't gotten pregnant. So I made up my mind I was going to find my happy place. I was going to create my happy place, and I was going to stay in that place. And so eventually I said to my husband, I don't recall if it was before I went to the doctor or after, but I said to my husband, I said, listen, if your family is tired of waiting for your wife to give you a child for whatever reason, please tell them they can go and marry you a second wife. I will leave, but I will not be made miserable by anybody because of childbearing. I will not be unhappy. I told my husband, I said, I will not be unhappy. And I meant it. I wasn't going to sit and cry and moan and moan. If it wasn't working, I would leave and let him go with someone else and have a child with someone else. But I was not going to be miserable. Now, if I was expected to be miserable so people could see that, oh yeah, she's really trying and she's really hurting, and so let's have pity on her, that was not going to be me. I was going to enjoy my life with or without a child. All right, so I know you might be listening to me and say, oh, you don't understand, but that was my own decision. I don't know where you are. I'm just telling my story, and I hope someone gets something from it. Like I said, I had to go through the same process while waiting for a husband to come and marry me. Okay, after I had this conversation with my friend, I eventually went to see the doctor, and he prescribed some drugs for me. So the first thing the doctor identified was that I had fibroids. Okay, but he said the fibroids were not hindering my pregnancy, okay, because they were not positioned in places where they could stop conception. So it wasn't the reason I wasn't getting pregnant, but he identified that I had fibroids in my womb. And then he also said, because of my age, like I said, I was 35, I needed something to boost my ovulation, and so he prescribed some drugs. And there's this specific drug that most women take even without prescription. I believe it was also one of the drugs that he prescribed for me. I think it's Clomid or similar drug in that with that active ingredient. I think it's something that has to do with Clomid or something, and so it's kind of like helps you to ovulate better or something. I took it for a few months, but I stopped after a while because I read a book by Danielle Steele many years before I got married, when I was still really young. And in that book, she talked about a woman, the protagonist actually, who had cancer. And one of the things that stood out for me in the book was the protagonist said she had taken fertility drugs when she was younger, trying to get pregnant, and she did not conceive. And the doctor said to her, when she actually went for the diagnosis and all the tests and everything, the doctor said, oh, probably that's one of the reasons why you're having this cancer, because some statistics show that women who take fertility drugs when they're younger, who do not conceive, eventually, sometimes, in many cases, end up having cancer. And so when I took the drugs for a couple of months, 2-3 months, religiously, and did not conceive, I said to myself, no, I'm going to stop taking these drugs because I don't want too many issues, okay? And so I had to stop taking the drugs. And I just tried to eat healthy. I tried to live healthy, but I wasn't just going to be depending on medication. All right, at this point in time, doctor had done series of tests on me. I didn't do HSG at that time, but he monitored my ovulation, so I had to go see doctor once or twice a month. He would tell me when I was ovulating. He would tell me when to sleep with my husband. He would tell me, what to do, what not to do in the process of getting pregnant and so on. So he was just monitoring my cycle. Like, what he was doing was just studying my cycle, and he did a couple of other scans and other things, but not the HSG. And then he said, there's really nothing wrong with you, okay? And so he said, I want to see your husband. But for now, I'm just going to stop here. So I'm just going to tell you 2 things that I did, which I think will help you, and I would encourage you to do as well. The first thing I already told you is that I made up my mind to not be miserable. Whether or not I had a child, I made up my mind to be happy. If I was married for 5 years without a child, I was already making plans to adopt. I probably haven't said this, but I'm also still on a journey of secondary infertility, and that's why I'm on this show, because you need to hear someone who's going through what you're going through. And so one of the things I've made up my mind to do is to be happy. I cannot stay in depression. I cannot stay in unhappiness because it doesn't pay me. Okay, so I choose to be happy. You choose to be happy, my friend. You choose your own happiness. What makes you happy? Something that takes your mind off it, that keeps you happy, and make up your mind that you are going to be happy. Now, let me tell you why. Because you could do everything you could ever possibly do and still not be pregnant. And I'm not cursing you. Like I said, I had to consider this eventuality. One thing you need to remember is when you see that red flag, when you get that red flag every month, it is something to be thankful for, because it is a sign of life. It is a sign that the reproductive systems in your body are functioning, and there is hope. There is hope that you will carry your baby. There is hope that you will get pregnant one day. Out of the blues, you just wake up and you don't see your period. We have that hope, and we just keep on going. But we cannot remain in depression while we're doing this, because low spirits will also hinder the progress, will also hinder the process. There's something terrible about being downcast in your spirit. It just projects negative energy all around you, and it pushes away, it deflects good things that are coming to you. Do your best to be happy, and one way to do this is by developing an attitude of gratitude. Be grateful. Be grateful, be thankful whenever you see your period. Assuming you don't see your period because you're going through PCOS or something else, just be grateful, be thankful that you are alive. You can be thankful about something in your life, and I encourage you, start keeping a gratitude journal today and writing down those things that you're thankful for every day, and make up your mind to be happy whether or not you have a child, because there are people in the grave today. So just be thankful. Now, the second thing I want to tell you, which I made up my mind to do while I was waiting for my pregnancy to happen, was I decided to make money. Make money, make bastard money, like we say in Nigeria. Make bastard money. You need to make money. Why? Because when you have the children, you need to be financially secure to take care of them, to give them the best. Because when you have children, later in life, you're going to be like, I want to spoil my children. But if you don't have money to spoil them, guess who's going to be depressed then? So we need to make money. Just focus on making money, sister. Focus on making money, brother. Talk to someone if you need a job, if you need to start a business, if you have a job, you have a business, and you want to add a side hustle, and make a fund, create a fund and say, this is for my child. Because of course, if you're not having children in your 20s, if you're having them in your 30s and in your 40s, in your 50s, you may not live so long with them, and then you want to be able to leave something for them in form of an inheritance that they can take home and say, oh, my mommy left me this house. Oh, my mommy left me the million XYZ currency. So yes, start a business, open a fund and say, this is for my child, this is for my son, this is for my daughter. Give it a name, okay? And say this is, and that is a step of faith as well, because you believe you're going to have this child and you're taking steps in that direction to ensure that that happens. And taking steps of faith is one way to ensure that what you're believing for materializes. So get up and focus on making money. And if you are interested in making money, I'm your girl. I am interested in making money and in adding value to your life. That's why I'm called the Woman of Value, and that's why this podcast is called the Woman of Value Podcast. So follow this podcast, because we are going to be talking a lot about making money and growing our monies. That is one thing I'm passionate about, because these children we're going to have, they need money. They need money. So guys, stay on this channel. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back in another episode as soon as possible. Be talking more about infertility. And if you need me to talk about any other topics, or you want to come on the show, I mean it, drop me a message and I'll have you on and we'll talk about it. In the meantime, don't let anybody make you feel miserable. Don't let anybody send you down into the depths of depression. Find your own happy and stay there. Create your own happy if it does not exist, and feel free to send me a picture of yourself in that place. I love you, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next episode of the Woman of Value Podcast. Thank you. I'm every woman.